We begin in darkness as a powerful score begins, and all we see is slits of red coming across the screen and then expanding into the blood red word Koyaanisqatsi, a word that has no frame of reference to most Western people. And from there, we're then taken to a rocket taking off. And just as these sort of flurry of images keep going, we finally begin emerging from the darkness, emerging from our cave into nature. And the film Koyaanisqatsi takes us on an adventure through the nature of the American Southwest, then progressively all through America, starting with the industry, then the cities, the towns, the way people live their lives, and we get to see a holistic, entire view of humanity as we're, without any preconceived notions of it all, we're given a survey of all of humanity. Finally, we are shown the rocket exploding in the air and crumbling down, and we're given what Koyaanisqatsi means, a life out of balance. The last frame of the film shows us what the Hopi prophecy it will be of the day of purification. I recently rewatched Koyaanisqatsi. I remember from film school it being this minimalist avant-garde documentary about late 70s, early 80s America, slice of life. It had a darker impact on me. The shallowness of people's lives, the despair they were experiencing, and like little worker bees in a system, they had been conditioned to march to the tune of society. The Hopi prophecy seemed to ring so true and accurate to our world, and it was truly crazy how accurate it seemed. I then began to think about why the world is this way, how to define what is happening to it. I could feel the parallels of Koyaanisqatsi today. It's more technified, but our whole system is this. It's a system serving itself, not serving the people within it. We are experiencing plagues, climate change, potential World War III, inequality like none other. What was this thing that caused all of these problems, but also made the problems seem like just the reality of running the world, even though it was destroying it? And I had an epiphany while watching it. The scenes of all the office buildings and the time lapses of cars creating streaks along the streets. And I realized that this system in and of itself is a machine. A machine partially made with metal and electronics, but even before computers were widely used, this was a machine. It used to be a machine of people, paper, and ink. It grew into the industrial machine we see in Koyaanisqatsi, and today it is the digital machine that we would think of. It's an intelligence, but not like an intelligence that we would normally think of like a human brain, like how there's like some sort of mega computer somewhere making all of these decisions. It's closer to a hive mind. There's no one singular spot in it that it resides. It's in your computer. It's in your own brain as you conform to society. It's in the brain of the CEO of BlackRock. It's in Joe Biden's brain. It's in Trump's brain. It's in the brain of every boss, computer, or ledger, all with the same goal to extract productivity and profit from whatever it has control over. Computers just do what they're told, but us humans, we are trained through stimulus response to do this. If we conform, we're given a treat, ice cream, a nice house, an easier job. If not, we're put in a difficult spot, and we're reminded by this need to succeed, by all the destitute we see. And this is only a growing thing. The homeless problem in our society is a symptom and a feature to the system, as a reminder to the worker bees that if you do not conform, if you do not succeed, if you do not have the productivity that we desire, you will end up as an undesirable homeless person on the streets. In Koyaanisqatsi, this hive mind was kept to the Western world. But now that the Soviet Union was defeated, it has consumed the world. There is nowhere to escape from it. It is destroying the world on a global scale. After having these dark thoughts in my head being conjured up by Koyaanisqatsi and this epiphany, I couldn't tell if I was crazy or if there was any validity to what I was thinking and feeling after watching this movie that I originally thought was just going to be a boring slice of life film that I was forced to watch when I was in college. And as always, the great YouTube algorithm suggested something to me. the talk with Daniel Schmachtenberger on the Metacrisis. Daniel took my observations, and Daniel had similar observations to me and gave a very concrete view of them. I'd also say that he's describing the next stages of capitalist realism.
If you think of money as a proxy for value, but only value that is measurable, extractable, and exchangeable, and all the types of value that on your deathbed you'll really care about are not measurable, extractable, and exchangeable. We'll destroy all those types of value in the pursuit of these types, and we have to because they are. Right? And so now think about that as a decentralized incentive system that is incenting all the 8 billion humans to figure out how to get it, because everything else they want requires it, and everything they need to exist requires it. The countries relative to each other, the companies relative to each other, the people relative to each other. And so it incents them to innovate, and it incents them to act on existing innovation. So search algorithms and optimization algorithms, right? And so you can think of the global market as something like an AI, an intelligent system that is running parallel process on human compute, on human beings. And you know how radically powerful parallel process in the cloud is. Being able to run a lot of parallel process on computers did a lot more than centralized supercomputers could do. So this is running parallel process on 8 billion human beings and the clusters of corporations and countries and whatever, to incentivize them all to search new ways to make money and to optimize on existing ways. And whoever gets good at that system gets more power in it, and in turn lobbies and changes laws and changes cultural values of the media they create and whatever, that makes the system better for them. And anyone that opposes that system is also opposing those who are doing well at it, so that there is agency to suppress that. So you can think of the global market as a misaligned superintelligence that is already misaligned with planetary well-being and humans, that is running on all the humans while also running all the humans, that also uses all the compute and all the other technology, and that is building all of the narrow AIs in its own service.
The issue is the fact that we aren't in a system that serves its people. We are in a system that serves the system. And Mark Fisher's concept of capitalist realism is a great visualizer for this. Everything is devoted towards keeping the system going. There can never be any revolution in the system. Any revolution is absorbed by the system, internalized by the system, and then used to keep itself going. It's sort of like this self-criticalness is part of how it keeps going. We are stuck in the loop of staying in it. Even if we can be critical of it, it still doesn't have an actual lasting effect on it. At the intersection of capitalist realism and Daniel Schmachtenberger's concept of the metacrisis, we have a problem of being critical of this system constantly being internalized and repurposed to continue to perpetuate the system. The biggest point of that Daniel makes is the fact that no matter how much a person, a community, a county, a state, even a country works towards being green, to work within the planetary boundaries that the world has, unless the entire system is reconstituted towards being mindful of the people in it, as well as the environment that it exists in, the system will eventually collapse in on itself.
That I do believe we're at the end of history. Like eminently in the lifetimes of everyone in this room, we're at the end of history. Meaning we're at the end of a human civilization defined by the major defining characteristics that what we call written human history from early Egypt or Sumeria or whatever was defined by, which is if you had a peaceful civilization and Genghis Khan wanted that area, or Alexander the Great wanted that area, your peaceful civilization was wiped out. And the same is true if you want to internalize all of the cost of carbon. Your country is going to get destroyed geopolitically by whoever externalizes that cost and concentrates the profits. The thing that has been more successfully dominant, extracted more, grown its population more, increased its violence capability wins. And that thing, with exponential tech at planetary boundaries, self-terminates. So either we're at the end of our species, or we're at the end of our species being defined by those parameters.
The system is very good at basically guilting people into the small personal issues that they create with the environment. The personal pollutions that the average person creates has been internalized within us to be more green, to recycle, to be as eco-friendly as humanly possible. And that goes all the way up to the country level. But if this global AI that is operating on every single computer, operating on every single person, and is constantly having self-criticism but does not stop the system, or at least fundamentally change the system that Daniel describes, unless we have a global revolution of how we understand and operate within a global capitalist system, basically stopping the concept of global capitalism, it is doomed to eventually hit planetary boundaries and cause extreme amounts of damage and destruction in our world. And Koyaanisqatsi illustrates that to me in just so many great ways. The fact that watching people on the street, their day-to-day lives, their choices are being dictated by this AI, this sort of meta intelligence that is running on everyone. We are all focused on a one fungible currency because that is what will guarantee us a good life, a simple life, an easy life, the life that we want to live. And at the cost of it, it is an extractive process that is destroying the planet and causing equally as much suffering in the world. You can look at so many examples in the world history in the last 20 years and see how public opinion does not match with what the system creates. After the 2008 financial crisis, did the average person want government to bail out banks, bail out companies that went under? The average person would say that they wanted the government to bail out people, individual people, help them get out from underneath their mortgages, help them stay in their homes. Most people in power in that situation wanted something like that. I would say even Obama wanted that. Probably even George Bush wanted something like that. But the system did not want that. The system wanted to preserve itself, which means preserving the corporations inside of it. And that is more important than preserving the individual lives of the people that exist within the system as effectively worker bees. They are sacrificed to the queen of the corporation. And this is something that you can look in top to bottom, left to right, in any great crisis over the last few years. There might be a public outcry, public demand for X, Y, or Z thing to happen, but the system will spin it, the system will divert it, the system will tell people that it needs to do what is important for the system to survive.
And that's the role media has in this system, is it basically is used to manufacture consent. It is used to manipulate people, to tell them why they can't have the thing that they need to have, why the system cannot change for them, why the system can't accommodate them. Basically, it's the propaganda machine that is designed to tell people why they need to sit down and shut up and just go along with the world.
And at the end of Daniel's talk, it really is an interesting concept that we are confronted with. The truth for human life to continue, for human existence to continue, we must fundamentally change how the system is run. The system has to basically be completely subverted. The system must be changed to serve people and to be mindful of the environment that it is in.
Koyaanisqatsi, the concept of the Metacrisis, all these things have shifted my view of the world so drastically. And to be perfectly honest, I don't fully know what the final conclusion of this changed perspective is. I don't know if this is just a doom saying, if this is just a prophecy of doom that will eventually end up in the Hopi prophecy of the destruction of the world. I don't know if this is just all in people's concepts and heads and it really doesn't mean anything and there is real no consequences for what's going on and it'll just continue to do what it's doing. And then there's also the possibility that the possible awareness of these things could lead to changing things for the better, which is where I want things to be, but I'm not 100% sure if we're going to get to that point. It seems like the Hopi prophecy foretells that there will be a loud, destructive bang to end it all. And I think that's definitely still a possibility, I also think that the more likely outcome is that it will be a long, slow decline to the end of it all, which could then be punctuated with a large bang. I'm not 100% sure. I think that this video and putting all these concepts together is, even though it's talking about possibly an end of the world scenario, sort of a highlighting of how destructive and manipulative this system that we all find ourselves in is. I think that it's the awareness and the acknowledging of a problem, I think eventually will lead us to possibly discovering solutions, possibly figuring out, looking through it all, being able to see through the system is what truly allows you to transcend it and hopefully change it, or at least exist without it. And I think that's probably where on the individual level you kind of have to take your solace, is that understanding the system and transcending the system and allowing yourself to be removed from the system as much as possible gives you the most comfort of it all, I would say. But as much as this is all sort of talking about doom, end of the world, I also think that this could be the beginning, just like how everything has an end then has a beginning. This could be the beginning of realigning people's views and perspectives about things in a positive way to make a good change in the world.
Thanks for listening to my analysis of Koyaanisqatsi and how it relates to the Metacrisis. It'd be a big help if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to the channel and considering supporting me on Patreon. It goes a long way to helping me make more of these videos. Thank you.